Edgar Allan Poe's The Tell-Tale Heart, A Story of Murder and Madness by Mac Lewis. Characters. Stage directions 1 and 2. Ravens 1, 2, 3, and 4. All ravens to be read by a group. Villains, the teller of the tale. Old man, the villain's housemate. Heart, officer, sergeant, and constable. Prologue. SD1. A small light appears on a dark stage, casting long shadows. SD2. All is still until all the ravens flying in. Caw, caw, caw. Raven 1. Long ago, the master of the blood-curdling tale was a man named Edgar Allan Poe. Raven 2. Poe wrote about murders and morgues. Raven 3. Gargoyles and graveyards. Raven 4. And this tale about a man fallen into madness. SD1. A thin, pale man steps from the shadows. Villain. Madness! I am not mad! All the ravens. Caw, 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 caw. Villains. You do not believe me, I can tell, but it's no matter. I shall prove it to you. Ravens fly around the stage, more and more of them, until the stage is filled with flapping wings. SD1. When the stage clears, the man is gone. Scene 1. An old man sits in a big wooden bed. SD1. A large raven is perched on the headboard. 3 others sit on the footboard. SD2. The old man is not, however, aware of the birds. It is as though they are invisible. Old man, weakly. Would you kindly bring me some tea? The villain cheerfully offstates. Of course, I'll be right there. With the morning paper, too. The old man, kindly. Thank you very much. The villain walks in, carrying a tray. Old man. You do not look well today. Didn't you get any sleep last night? I'm fine, old man. If anything, my senses are especially keen. Old man. Is it a headache? Let me fix you something. Villain. No, no. You just enjoy your tea. All the ravens. Such a kind-hearted old man. Villain in the audience. 'Tis too true. The old man had never done me harm, but he had this one sickly eye, pale blue, with a hideous film over it. It was like the eye of a vulture. When it looked at me, my blood ran cold. SD2. The villain turns his head back toward the old man. So I made up my mind to kill him. All the ravens. He made up his mind. Villain. I was not crazy. It was his evil eye. It mocked me. It haunted me. I had to rid myself of that evil eye. He runs from the room. The raven follows. Scene 2. The stage is dark, and the silence save for gentle snoring. The old man is snoring. I can't snore. Pretend I snored. SD1. Slowly, ever so slowly, the door opens. The villain sulks into the room, holding a lantern. To the audience. Night after night, I crept into the old man's room. All the ravens. Night after night, he shone a sliver of light upon the eye. Villain. But every night the eye was closed, so I waited. After all, it was not the old man who vexed me. It was his eye. All the ravens. His evil eye. On the 8th night. SD2. The villain accidentally bumps into the dresser. The old man sitting up. Who's there? The old man freezes. For an hour I stood, hardly breathing. I sensed all the while the old man listening, and then the old man groaning. Oh! It was the groan of mortal terror and a low, stiffened sound from the bottom of his soul. All the ravens groaning. Oh! Villain 1. Shone my light upon his eye, and all the ravens. It was open! Villain. Wide open. It chilled the very marrow in my bones, and then I heard it. The hearts. Thump, 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 thump. All the ravens. The beating of the old man's heart. SD2. Eyes wide open, mouth agape. The villains remain still. Villain. The heart beats faster and faster. All the ravens. Louder and louder. Hearts. Thump, thump. Thump, 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 thump. My rage boiled. I could stand it no longer. I leapt. All the ravens. Ah! The villain. Ah! The old man. Ah! The stage goes dark. A few seconds pass. Then a small light comes up on the villain. Villain. I smiled when the deed was done. Yet for many minutes the old man's heart beat on. Thump, 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 thump. When finally it ceased, I examined the corpse. The old man was dead. Stone dead. Raven 1. It was over. Raven 2. The heart was still. Raven 3. The eye was closed forever. Villain. The eye would trouble me no more. Scene 3. The lights come up to reveal a cozy parlor. SD2. There's a loud knock on the door. SD1. The villain hums lightly as he crosses the stage to the front door. Opening it, he finds 3 police officers. Villain. Good morning, gentlemen. Officer. There's been a complaint. Sergeant. Your neighbors. Constable. They complained. Villain. Did they now? Officer. A scream was heard. Sergeant. Like this. Ah! And the constable said, yes. Ah! The villain. Huh, I see. SD2. The villain smiles. I must confess, the shriek was my own, uttered during a most distressing dream. Officer. May we come in? The sergeant. Look around. The constable. Investigate. The villain. Yes, of course. SD1. The villain opens the door and the men walk in. The villain to the audience. I was not worried, for I had concealed the body beneath the floorboards. No eye, not even his, could have detected anything. There was no stain, no blood, and I'd been too clever for that. Officer. Who else lives here with you? Sergeant. Yes, with whom else do you live? Constable. And why isn't he here? Villain. Ah, the old man. He's off to the country for a bit of rest. Would you care for a look around the room? Officer. We would. Sergeant. Quite so. Constable. Yes, please. Villain. After you then, gentlemen. Scene 4. The villain watches as the policemen examine the old man's bedroom. SD1. Nothing seems out of place, except for the ravens perched on the old man's bed, but there no one sees. Officer. Well, everything looks fine to me. Sergeant. Nothing seems out of the ordinary. Constable. Everything seems quite within the ordinary, I'd say. The villain. Care to join me for a spot of tea before you go? Officer. A spot of tea? Sergeant. That would be lovely. Constable. Yes, lovely. SD2. The villain leaves the room. Officer. Nice fellow. Sergeant. Yes, quite. Constable. Indeed. The villain returns with a tray. Here we are, gentlemen, to the audience. Yes, I served them tea, for what what did I have to fear? I served them tea above the very spot where I hidden the corpse. The officer sipping. Ah, this is fine tea. The sergeant. They say tea is good for you. Constable. English breakfast is my favorite. The villain to the audience. I fooled the officers. Well, tell me, could a madman have done that? All the ravens. But soon our villain wished them gone. Raven 4. See how pale he's grown? Raven 1. See how he fidgets? Raven 2. See how he sweats? The villain to the audience. Why wouldn't they leave? Officers. Lots of strange things happening these days. Sergeant. People acting oddly. Constable. Something in the air. Villain. Then there came a ringing in my ears. All the ravens. A muffled buzzing sound. Hearts. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Officer. The countryside must be nice this time of year. Sergeant. Yes, peaceful, I'd say. Constable. What's with the fall foliage and all? SD1. The villain looks around, searching for the noise. Raven 3. It wasn't a buzzing at all. It was a ticking. Tick, tick, tick. Raven 4. Like that of a watch. Raven 1. Or a clock. Raven 2. Or a bomb. SD2. The villain begins to pace. Villain. They blathered on as if nothing was wrong. Officer. A walk in the woods, why, it's clears the mind. Sergeant. Much like this tea. Constable. Yes, it's good for the soul. Heart. The thump. The thump. Couldn't they hear it? SD1. The villain clutches his head and covers his ears. Officer, why do you call it English breakfast? Sergeant. Something to do with the English, I imagine. Constable. Is there such a thing as an English lunch tea? Heart. The thump. The thump. The thump. Villain. Then it came to me. They knew. They were mocking me with their innocent smiles and their sips of tea. All the ravens. Oh, the agony. Hearts. The thump. The thump. The thump. Officer. Well, we should be getting back to the station. Sergeant. Yes, it's time to go. Constable. Thank you for the tea, young man. Villain. I can't bear it no longer. All the ravens. He could bear it no longer. Heart. The thump. The thump. The thump. Villain. Cruel monsters. Disassemble no more. I did it. I confess. Tear up the floor here. Here. It's beating. It's beating of the old man's hideous heart. SD2. The ravens fly around the stage in the frenzy as the officers leapt to their feet and rushed to the villain. All the ravens. Caw, caw, caw. Then the lights fade to black and fall still.